Being injury-free in the gym is great, but it's not the flex you think it is. I've come across a number of posts lately where someone is essentially bragging about having been injury-free for a 10 or 20-year gym career. And while that's great, I'm glad they haven't had to experience that. I think these sorts of posts can be misleading and potentially harmful for a variety of reasons. First of all, pain and injury are not the same thing. You may look at someone who's training harder than you and say, have fun with your, herniated disc in the future, etc. But the reality is a lot of these things like disc herniations, rotator cuff tears, labral tears are extremely common in asymptomatic individuals as well. So just because you've trained for 10 years without pain doesn't mean that you've avoided a disc herniation or a rotator cuff tear. You might be dealing with some of these very same things that you think you should be afraid of and that other people are going to have. You might be dealing with some of those things as well and just not know it. Second of all, I think we often over-catastrophize injury and we tell people that it needs to be avoided at all costs, when the reality is most injuries are just not that big of a deal, and a large amount of minor injuries is a natural part of life. Trips, falls, blisters, sprains, headaches, these are all minor injuries, and you will incur thousands of these over your lifespan. So a few minor injuries in the gym here and there that you quickly recover from, train around, train through, etc., is really not a big deal, whether you were in the gym or out kayaking, walking the dog, playing tennis, whatever you were doing, some sort of minor injury or setback is bound to happen as part of life. So don't let the fact that some of these may occur in the gym dissuade you from pursuing that as a healthy lifestyle choice. Third, lifting is relatively safe in general. In fact, it's one of the safest forms of physical activity. The injury rate is usually 1 to 3 injuries per 1,000 hours of training, depending on the study and the sport evaluated. So if you've made it 5, 10, 15 years without injury, it's not because you've done anything special. That's really just the expectation. People are not going in the gym and getting injured left and right. Injuries are relatively infrequent. So if you have made it a long time without injury, consider yourself lucky, count your blessings, but it's not really that big of a deal one way or the other, and you've really just met the expectation that lifting is in fact safe. So you don't necessarily have any sort of special knowledge or wisdom to impart upon others. You've just pursued a safe activity and not been injured while pursuing it. So congratulations, that's fantastic. Some people are a little bit less fortunate, and yes, you can be very irresponsible and hurt yourself. So outside of doing anything that's extremely obviously irresponsible or dumb, lifting is relatively safe. If you are one of those people that has incurred a few more injuries than the average, don't think it's necessarily anything that you've done wrong. Sometimes these things just happen. Don't catastrophize it. More often than not, they're just not that big of a deal.